This is Frameform.
All right, y'all. Well, season 5, we're back from our break, but this is actually kind of like our last episode.
Yes, you read right. If you saw the episode title, it's not only our season 5 wrap up, it is also our series finale. This is when we're going to reflect on the past 5 years and, shout out everyone that's been able to be part of this amazing project and just kind of look back and get some closure, but also let you know where we are going from here with Frameform and individually.
Yeah, and just looking back at the past, 5 seasons and just, sum total 5 years, that has been a very action-packed few years for all of us.
The seed of this idea actually started before COVID. So maybe, Hannah, I'm sure our longtime listeners know the origin story, but if you just want to share, we're here because of an idea that you had and an initiative that you had. So if you want to share, how did this all come about? And, season 1 came out during COVID, but as we've learned over the years, this was not a COVID project. This was not it was just a coincidence.
Yeah, no, it was just something like the three of us were kind of working with another group. We thought it was a good idea, or I brought it to the table that it would be really great to do a podcast talking about dance film because there wasn't anything like that out there. And
this was 2016, 2017. I think you were sitting on this idea. I remember you talking to me over a year before it happened.
I would say probably, yeah, maybe around 2018, because I was because it was when I started my job in DC. And yeah, I was doing Screen Dance Collective, and we were using that as a free resource for people to see dance film and actually curate it for them on the internet. And then the podcast was kind of audio format of that, because when you're in university or in these dance film festivals, you're in a group of people that is pretty small, and you're only going to get that once in a while. So why not make it audio format so everyone can have access to it and talk about the topics that we do at these film festivals or in these university settings? And also, I have a love for dissecting things and talking about film. And yeah, again, audio format made sense. Everybody loves a podcast. Everyone has a podcast.
But in fairness, I think this was before. I think this was before everybody had a podcast.
Yeah.
Podcasts were taking off, but I think
Yeah,
you were a bit ahead on this one. And I think especially as far as the dance film space goes.
exactly.
I was doing dance cinema festivals at the time, and I still am, but I remember being like, oh, this is brilliant because we do have panels, we do have films that we cover, but there wasn't really an outlet aside from posting to our social account. And this felt like a really good third party separate entity where we could also share with other festivals and other creators. And it still is has been a very valuable add-on or incentive, because instead of just having it on my channel or my social, it's Frameform podcast is its own thing.
Yeah.
And even having Claire involved, you bring in a whole other realm of influence and confluence there as well.
Yeah, no matter how strange they may be. But yeah, and I think that just it's so important, not only, sort of as a part of the thesis statement of the project, having something to bridge the gap between festivals, not only in terms of, people who may not be able to attend every single event, but also just continuing those conversations that take place at festivals that can be kind of siloed on their little island. Like, you talk about these ideas and then the festival ends and then everyone just kind of goes on their merry way. And I think that this podcast has been extremely important for that. And just generally, especially as someone who's been in archives for, the better part of the last few years, like having a living archive is super important, and having something that chronicles sort of what the thoughts and conversations were at any particular time is super valuable. And yes, we can say that there's like an oversaturation of audio content, so to say, but it's all incredibly valuable, and it really does capture this moment in time.
Yeah, I would love to go back and listen to the show from the start. And I think it would even be funny to be like, oh my gosh, we sounded so young, or, whatever. It's just time is a funny thing. And I think it's great to have these, like you said, this archive or this time capsule, because by the time we got started with Frameform, we were not really going out in the world, and it was a great way to stay connected and also reach out and make something really positive out of what was a pretty intense and confusing time for all of us.
I mean, but it kind of helps though, like being social, and being able to connect to people coast to coast
And beyond.
and beyond. And I mean, I appreciate that. Like, it was just something like, yeah, I have something to look forward to every week, and
Yes.
something to do, and something that was like unrelated to the work that I was doing at the time. And the stuff that we were talking about just like kept me sharp on what we're talking about. And again, it's like you just don't get that outside of these festival spaces and university spaces. And I was definitely like craving that, and I still crave that. And I luckily have friends that I can talk to with that about that kind of stuff, and itch that scratch that I need. Scratch that itch. I always get that mixed up.
Yeah, I think that one's reversible. It goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
It's real. As someone with eczema, I can confirm it's really a cycle. So, well, speaking of reaching out to others, like I was looking at our episode guide available on Patreon. I was looking at our episode guide and was like, how many people have we talked to? How many interviews? So here's the fun little overview of Frameform by the numbers. So we've had, how many episodes? We've had 82 episodes. We attended in person and did collaborations with 6 different festivals, including overseas. Thanks, Claire.
Yep. Thanks, Synodons.
And we featured about 10 more festivals. We did about 35 interviews, not including our roundtables, which for each of that, I guess you could count each participant as a kind of interview.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. I think we've covered such a great scope of topics. And, it was fun to have certain series that we went back to. Like, as far as favorite episodes go, I still love Location Scout. And it just, maybe it's my own, how my brain works. It felt so good to, like, have that sort of classification and that container, because there's so many different ways that you can view and discuss these projects, and to have an open timeline and be like, we're just talking about things set in the forest, or even like our lighting episode or our color episode. Now when I watch things, even if we don't ever cover it on the show again, I have like this mental container to put it in, where it's like, oh yeah, that can be an extension of that conversation we had. Like, it just felt really good to process that, especially with you two.
I have to shout out the music video episodes, because those actually did very well on our like analytics, like the OK Go and the Missy Elliott stuff. Like, that stuff was really fun to just kind of like hone in on an artist and how they use choreography in their music videos, and see like the themes that are being picked up. Yeah, those were great. And I love that how much of an audience people could connect to, because I feel like with dance film, like, not everyone gets it, but like a music video is very like tangible, entertaining. People like, the artist. And like Missy Elliott, they get super experimental for such a time when it came out,
That could be its own podcast, is literally just every episode is a different music video dissection.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
Somebody do it. We can't right now. But there's the idea. Thank us later.
And I always love the episodes where we take a look at something that maybe might not be classified as dance film, but can be reframed as dance film. I mean, I'm specifically thinking of the Metropolis episode, and really,
yeah, I was just thinking that.
We all had to prep so much for it because like the film is 2 hours and we'd seen it, but like if you're gonna have an episode on it, you got to watch it again.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
I'm glad it was worth it for all of us. Unlike the West Side Story episode, where
No, that was still worth it. That was still worth it. I mean, it was still great to talk that out and sort of see where we diverged on that. And
yeah,
and I think that that's the thing about, I mean, just film in general, but particularly dance film, is that you're not going to have the same, like, two people aren't going to have the same experience of that film. And, being able to talk it out can, either, well, it can do many things. It can help deepen your understanding of what the film is, and also can help you learn more about people and sort of how they, see the world, and maybe even, challenge the way that you see the world.
for sure. I think one more favorite episode, I gotta say season 3 wrap up, because most of these episodes, I would say 99.99999 continued, is us in separate spaces. And that was one episode where the 3 of us were in person, just the 3 of us, and like even just the watching it back, like we have fun when we're all in our own rooms here on in like a Zoom room or Google Meet, but being in the same room and having that conversation,
Yeah.
that was like next level, like such a good time. And it was great. That was kind of, we didn't know it at the time, but that was like a little bit past our halfway point, and it was awesome to just have all of us together and coming off of a live festival experience as well.
And it's been wonderful to see what the reception has been, because, I mean, yes, we've had our, social media releases and our Patreon, but our actual, like, marketing, so to say, of the podcast has been quite minimal. And I think that that speaks to, I mean, the void that it really filled as far as dance media conversation goes, but also how people connected to it. Like, I had people coming up saying, "Hey, I love this particular episode," or, "Oh, I, just caught up on this season. I can't wait till the next one." And that was, really wonderful to hear, and really great to hear when it really resonated with someone.
So let's talk about any predictions. Obviously, we're not going to remember everything we've covered, but is there anything, like I have a few that popped up for me, but any like predictions or changes of opinion you've had, or things that we were covering at the time that were like super hot topics and trending, and now have either followed that trend or completely changed? Like the first one I can think of is TikTok. Like we actually moved up the release of that episode because we're like, TikTok might be going away in a month, and like here we are.
It still might be going away. It still might. They haven't sold yet, but I mean, I'm crossing my fingers and toes for it to go. It's just dumb.
I don't even have TikTok, and I have it.
Same.
It's like by having Instagram or by having going on YouTube, I therefore have it. And also the fact I teach teenagers does not help.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't exactly say I've warmed up to TikTok, but I mean, there's some things about sort of the evolution of how we receive vertical videos in particular, and how dance has translated to that. And seeing some people actually, subvert that in ways has been really interesting. I mean, granted, you also see sort of like the monocultural element that it introduces, as far as people picking the same music, doing the same moves, and same kind of framing, everyone doing the apple dance the same way kind of deal happens. But it's, I mean, you can't deny that it's certainly influenced the way that we perceive or receive media, and sort of how we adapt to the different platforms as well.
It offers a container or a framework for people to either be creative or not. It's like if there is a sound you can quote unquote remix, or there is choreography that you can learn, then you don't have to generate all these ideas freshly for yourself. So it kind of regenerates into this high volume content economy, without having to have everyone be original. And it allows that content to be connected to each other. So like I've noticed, I've never had TikTok on my phone, but even on Instagram, which probably has a very similar algorithm at this point, if I watch something with one audio, then and I actually let it play through for a bit, I'll notice the same audio pop up more frequently. And it's like, I want to escape this sound. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear about Matt and Abby anymore. I've already said don't show me them.
Ugh, content economy. I hate those words together. Like,
yeah, sorry to sound like a douchebag, but it's true. I didn't make the problem.
it's funny to be in this world right now where there's just like so much and people are making money off of it.
Too much,
and
actually.
not all of the content is like good.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny just like coming from like Screen Hits Collective, where we were like, really like scraping the bits to find this kind of stuff on the internet. And then now you're watching these like kind of like, I don't want to say like low budget, but just like not very like as well executed in the vertical format, and you're watching it. Or like people make like jokes on it. Like someone sent me a video where it was like the play on Save the Last Dance trailer. And I was just like, they put way too much dumb effort into this. It's like I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, I'm trying to escape the internet. I've been on the internet for like, whenever I got MySpace, like it's definitely been at least like 20 years, like
yeah,
I'm done. And it's like furniture. It just it's not made as well, because it's just so easy to churn it out with the technology that we have or the resources that we have.
Yeah, and it also in a way becomes oddly professionalized with people who have the funds to, churn out that content and get a return on it in order to churn more content out. I mean, there are all these, stories about TikTok houses or like TikTok farms
and documentaries about them and Shekinah, like
exactly. And you sort of people who, essentially spend their day figuring out how the algorithm is shifting, and then, using their funds to hone in on that and, turn profit from it and not share that profit with the people who are actually in the videos.
Yeah.
Gross.
I think it's been really valuable for us to like, from a personal processing standpoint, but also from a, archiving standpoint, to look at these different modes of internet media, like different platforms. And I mean, speaking of favorites, I think my favorite episode title is probably Internet Made the Video Star.
Oh yeah,
because that's that particular episode I think was about maybe about YouTube.
It was.
I'd have to look at.
Yeah,
all
that
of
was
them,
the wasn't that class videos?
class video.
Yeah.
I think so. And it's funny because at the time we were just kind of, I would think we were on the decline of the Red Wall, Millennium Dance Complex, like videos coming out all the time. And we thought, could this get any more saturated? The answer is yes. Because now it's like every individual person, every studio, it's constant. And, while that could be very valuable if there's a particular choreographer you really like or dancer, or I think if, we were Gen Z and coming up, or Gen Alpha, my God, because we're getting that old that Gen Alpha's, graduating, I think. You kind of see behind the curtain more than you would have before, even if a lot of it's contrived. But that's just how things are now,
Yeah, I just feel like predictions for the future, I don't know. Like I'm not seeing as much choreography in music videos. I mean, we're living in the age of like, there's no such thing as like an MTV release. It's all a YouTube release, and I'm fine with that. But I don't know. It's just like we're just like kind of like in this like, it's like throw up. Like there's just so much you could do.
If we were to do one more, like, not to be grim, but it's like you think about like your last meal, like if we were to do one more music video episode, I would want to do it on Volcano, which is Jungle's visual album. It's like over 10, I think it's like somewhere in the mid-teens, awesome dance films. Long takes, great choreography, a lot of awesome like traditional vernacular jazz in there. Really good stuff. Their one video for Back on 74 and like that song and that choreo got really popular last summer. But there's like a whole album with an amazing dance film for each one. So, and they're still going. Like they're still releasing stuff. So I will link that in the show notes as my love letter and my parting gift to our listeners. Because I only thought it was like single videos. And then my husband showed me, he's like, no, they've got like 20 of these. And I was like, what? So there went our evening.
Dang. I do notice, at least, from, I suppose, the pandemic onward, that, dance in general has made some inroads into the mainstream, or in terms of mainstream popularity in the States. Just as far as, seeing how visible certain dancers are, certain dance is. And I mean, granted, you have like the Charlie D'Amelios, who obviously have the, multi-figured followers that somehow determine it gets a TV show. But there's also the dancers who, even like some of the professional dancers, are making inroads into film and TV. And we're also, at least maybe this is just my A24 influenced mindset, but there seems to be a very regular presence as far as dance scenes, or like dance influence scenes in mainstream film. I saw the TV Glow, and I was like, hey, there's Emma Portner. Okay. That's cool.
Well, I was just thinking, like, our first episode this season was about our Marvel movies, the new musical, and now the one that's in theaters as we're recording this is Joker, which is basically a musical superhero / villain movie. And it's like, damn, I didn't think it was going to merge that quickly.
Yeah. And one of the, Oscar frontrunners for next year, Amelia Perez, love it or hate it, it's getting a lot of buzz. And that's perhaps a questionable musical, but like it's a musical in
But it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, one other thing that I guess wasn't aware of it as much, because I remember, Claire, you were like, no, we probably will be there pretty soon, is AI in dance. Like, I've seen a lot more. I mean, you also live in the Bay Area, so you're like in the testing lab for a lot of the cusp, like where things are breaking, as far as technology goes. But like,
right.
yeah, just seeing really weird AI videos of like ballerinas with 3 legs, and I've even had some submissions come in where it's like, this was made completely in a program, and I'm like, I'm not ready for this. Like,
Same, I'm not ready.
Right.
Either.
It's a nah for me, dog. Like,
there are some artists who actually utilize AI in very interesting ways. I mean, as long as like that's not the statement of your piece, like this is all AI. Well, so is a lot of work out there. And granted, like the quality of the image is very much in the slop range still, but it's advancing very, very quickly, very, very quickly. And it's something that, we have to be very, very careful about, because, I mean, even pre-AI, dance movement has a very, like you still can't really trademark dance movement. And, it's really hard to argue sort of what the authorship of certain vocabulary is as well.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I'm grumpy. I'm like that with like editing sometimes. Like I like to just keep it old school. If you could just do it by like make a film by using like simple resources, and here I am talking about like how I said the like content economy with like technology and what you have and low budgetness. But I think sometimes the basics, if you do it well, just do it well that way. I don't know. I'm like,
way to shout it out to our second episode ever, Creative Minds and Bottom Line. Where basically we were like, just all the money in the world is not going to make a bad idea great. And you don't need a lot to say a lot.
keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, silly.
Well, I would also say, like, I loved all of our interviews and panels and when we got to bring guests on because, we set out to engage with the dance film space, industry, community, whatever word you want to put out there. And I think we were really great at it. I mean, way to go. And it wasn't limited to our own countries as well. Like, I think being able to do a lot of the stuff online also opened things up. Like, it's amazing that Claire was able to go in person and cover these festivals in Europe. But it's also cool that we were able to, use our technology to cover these things that we weren't able to attend in person. And I think maybe 10, 15 years ago, it would have been like, well, if you're not going there in person, maybe don't include it on the show or whatever. And I think listeners and people in general have become a lot more open to the idea of collaboration from abroad.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I still see some festivals doing like hybrid meetups where some people are joining in on Zoom and some people are, there in person. And I think that a positive effect from the whole, world turning upside down is that there are somewhat more regular meetups. Shout out to the Screen Dance Calendar, who posts a meetup at least every month or every 2 months. But yeah, it seems like people just want to connect even more. And to the subject of interviews, there's rarely an opportunity. Like when you finish a film and you have it screened, there really is rarely an opportunity to speak in depth about that work. Like even if you're at a festival, oftentimes it's in the form of a heavily monitored 15-minute Q&A where you can't even come close to scratching the surface of the work that you're presenting. And
the questions like, what inspired you to make this film?
right.
And
right.
it's like, well, where do I begin?
Exactly. And also I'm also thinking back to the David Rousseff interview or like interviews with people who've been at this for a long time, like the physical TV interview where it actually gives people the opportunity to look back at their work and actually like look back at it in, with a critical lens too, which that's so valuable for so many artists who don't really have the opportunity to do that. And it also helps artists if, there's always that pesky press tab in the grant applications. And
yes,
it helps that to have something where you're talking in depth about your work and have that, released to the public.
I think especially the examples you mentioned too, it's like these are projects and companies and people that predate dance on the internet in a big way. Like they were there when this started, but they were also working on this before. So it's really valuable for us to not take for granted, like, it wasn't always this way. Like, we're talking about the past 5 years, how much stuff has changed. I mean, my goodness, triple that, and you don't even recognize the landscape anymore.
I think it would be a good thing or like an opportunity. We've like collaborated with these festivals, interviewing people's films and their work. Like, I don't know if what is there for us in the future, but like Frameform being that place where we, can archive those conversations for those festivals because of like all the experience of like what we talk about and what the kinds of questions. And that's like a great, little thing for them to have in their archive that we contribute to.
And how to, and I don't want to just, toot our own horns, but how to capture it in a technically acceptable way as well. Because again, like there's only so much resource that a festival can dedicate to a videographer or someone recording audio, that it usually just ends up being someone just holding up their phone, which you'll get moderately workable video and barely workable audio from that. So I suppose that's to say that, Frameform continues in a way. If you wanted to, hit us up.
I'm so glad you guys are saying that, because when I was I was thinking about for this episode and like looking at the outline, it's like, what's next for Frameform and for us? And it's like, well, we all know what's next for us, but as much as we've been planning this season, we had some plans on how we're going to kind of wrap the past 5 seasons. More on that later. But I think that's a great idea because we've already invested the time in this online infrastructure. It's ready to go. We've got the listenership. We've got the relationships. I mean, even if we just reconnect with the festivals we've already been talking to, we've got 16 16 festivals, you know?
Yep.
It's just pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think it would be really valuable. And just like, like we have a lot going on in our lives, and as well as just like where things were before versus now when we started this project. But it just kind of keeps that, like, I don't know, that spark alive, as well as like just the appreciation of dance film archivals in general. Like there's just like, everyone has, a collection of some sort, and maybe it's not in the best condition, but I don't think like this kind of stuff is ever going to die. And if people are, doing research years from now and writing papers about it, like this is something that they can reference to, and they can listen to it in their own time.
Back in the 2020s, people were talking about this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it would be like a good thing to, I don't know, expand on, but maybe like do it at a pace that we're able to do it versus where we are now, where we just have too much on our plate.
Yeah.
There are seasons in life, and it's when we started this, we were in a very unique, once-in-a-lifetime season of the world being in a standstill.
Yeah.
And again, the three of us find ourselves in periods of recalibration, and it's very exciting. You can have it all. You just can't have it all at once.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The world just keeps moving. But I also wanted to note that, there is also utility in this podcast in that it does kind of serve as a model for other podcasts as well, and sort of a model of how other podcasts can work, whether or not the structure of it resonates with you. Like, it's a great way to flesh out your ideas and be able to flesh them out in a clear and thoughtful way. And I think that podcasts really, they can certainly help, obviously, festivals in terms of releasing audio recordings, but they can also help as far as talking through different topics. And I can also think that there's a utility to having them in schools as well, and having it as a part of a curriculum. Like, for instance, I've noticed a lot of, this is mostly high school curriculum that I've noticed, but sometimes as an alternative to papers, like teachers will have students do videos or do audio related work, and podcasts are a great way to do that.
I just want to say they are a lot harder because I have done that where it was like, instead of writing a paper, I'm gonna do a video essay, and during that time I was like, wow, I wish I did the paper because this was
Like,
so
I
much.
have regrets.
Yeah, the writing, the visuals, and the production of it,
Right,
like
Yeah. You have the writing and
So
the
it's like,
visuals to
How
go
about
with it.
multidimensional editing instead of just your writing?
yeah, like really think about that before you're
Yeah.
like, do I do the paper or do I do this? It's like,
But God, there are a few things I love more than a good video essay.
yeah, every frame of painting is back.
Yes, I saw that. And and also Screen Dance needs more video essays. I can only really truly think of 2 at the top of my head, both of which are phenomenal. And not to mention how many major film festivals actually have a video essay component as a part of them. Like, one of my favorite year-end lists, and I am one of those people who peruses year-end lists for best albums, best movies, and the like. But one of my favorite ones is the BFI's best video essays list,
Oh.
which is a really, really interesting connection, and people are doing some really creative things with that form.
See, if we were not friends outside of the podcast and I were just listening to this, I would probably be riddled with anxiety right now because where am I going to hear about random stuff like wildlife cams and the BFI video essay list if I'm not listening to Claire Schweitzer?
Which, by the way, Queen Grazer rules again.
Love it.
Mama Bears.
I think that's a good segue. Actually, you know what? we're going to keep this in because saying that's a good segue ruins the fact it was a good segue. But here we are. I think that's a good segue to the next section where I think we should express some gratitude, some shout outs. So I'll just continue where I was with that. If you re-listen to this series, you'll hear how the episode structure has changed over time. But even if you don't have the time to listen, just go through the show notes and you'll see all sorts of random suggestions of all forms coming from the three of us. But I think and I say this with love and admiration, the most random, the most eclectic mix is definitely the recommendations that come from Claire.
Oh dear. Yeah.
And I love it.
That was what like season 1 was about. Like at the very end, I was like put in like a like pick of a week, like
Pick of the
something
week.
random, and then it was just so much.
Yeah.
It was so much.
Just all the mountain lions and falcons in my life, and the air disasters in my life, and the
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
which, by the way, they should have saved the Gimli glider. That's one of Canada's greatest machines.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Neither do I.
It sounds like a Lord of the Rings thing, like the Gimli glider.
I know. Well, I mean, it was an Air Canada airline that ran out of fuel, or like it had a engine failure, but then like the pilot was a trained glider pilot, so he actually glided the plane, like
Sully.
catching the winds, 250 miles.
Dang.
But then they scrapped the plane, which is
Oh my
bull.
gosh.
But
I literally have 2 family members that work for Air Canada. How did I not know this? And my dad not my dad, but he talks about Sully probably every 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
That's
Oh,
his
Captain
Roman
Sully.
Empire.
oh my gosh, he is. I mean, one of the last great heroes of our generation.
Yes.
And at least they preserved that plane.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, back to gratitude.
Thanks. First of all, thanks, Sully.
Thanks, Sully.
I want to shout out because who really got this production going was Mason and Dan from Rixie, who actually Rixie is not like a thing anymore, but hence if you notice, like in season 1 and 2, we were like from Rixie, we had the logo and all of that. They were basically moving their company in a different direction, but they were like happy to give us all the assets and keep using the music
And these microphones.
and the microphones. So like huge shout out to them. And just like also Mason like editing the episodes for season 1 and 2. Like
I didn't realize till we started doing it ourselves. I was like, oh shit, this is that's a lot of time.
yeah, exactly. So like
Mm-hmm.
that was like a huge help of just like getting us started and like coming up with ideas and cross promoting on their platform, and just kind of like helping us really create this like little thing that we had going. Yeah, I miss Mason.
Our Bosley.
Exactly. And it's just a huge, part of getting us comfortable with the tech and being able to navigate with the tech, even if we're, traveling or, calling in from a random remote place. I also want to give a huge, huge shout out to Maddie Leitner, who's been a huge help for us as far as graphics and our social media goes, and someone who I'm very proud to call a colleague now at the San Francisco Dance Film Festival as well. So, Maddie, you rock. Thank you.
Yeah, Maddie, literally, when Dance Cinema had our 10-year anniversary, and I was like, I'm going to make an anthology with hundreds of films in it. Maddie was my go-to person, and, like, I don't even know how many hours she put in on that, but it was it was such a relief to know I could count on her, and it was based on our experience with this podcast, and I, so much respect for her, and she's like a through line with the entire West Coast. I think she's worked with like every festival, which is amazing.
I know, like she does, trailers for every single West Coast festival at this point.
And what a great niche. And like, that's the first time I said it, like niche and not niche. But I think others can learn from that as well, how to make a career out of that.
Yeah, Maddie, you're great. I'm so glad that we got to work with you. It was super helpful when just delegating those little tasks that we're unable to get to and put your own spin on it. So it was just nice to have someone that was there for us when we needed you.
And so capable and also creative and just like, you know, just gets it, which you cannot be understated in any field of work, in any situation. Like people that can stay on pace with you and tactfully check in and be like, hey, I'm waiting on this, or just want to manage, like her ability to time manage and work with us, especially like over, if it was like the holiday season or whatever, it's like that sort of open communication and a ability to adjust was huge. And that leads me to acknowledge Hannah for one of her massive strengths, which is if this podcast had just been Claire and I think we would have burnt out a lot faster because Hannah has such a good ability to put parameters on things, offer structure, and even if it's difficult sometimes to be like, yeah, of course we want to do 100 episodes, but then that's our life. You're really good at not creating problems for future you. At least that's how it comes across for me. Sometimes I've been maturing as well. I've learned over the years, but sometimes you find yourself in a situation and you're like, "Oh my god, at what point did the me of the past screw me of the future / present now over so hard?" So you've been really good at entertaining our ideas and offering ideas while also being able to be like, no, we gotta call it on that.
I think it's just like also experiencing that kind of going over the edge. It has definitely like taught me how to be manageable and not burn the candle at both ends. Yeah, just work experience has definitely taught me how to be like, look, work life balance is important. Treating other people with respect is important. And you got to have your cake and eat it too. So,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that's also something I've appreciated about doing this is just collective development and also just the implicit trust between all of us. Like I felt there's no micromanagement involved at all, and there was always this understanding of like how are we how are we pushing each other, how are we trying to make this the best we can, but also like how are we meeting each other where we are, and how do we respect what we are, and make sure that no one's left behind, really.
Definitely. I think like that was really helpful for all of us, like being the editor of certain episodes and being like each other's ears about like how can we improve on something, or yeah, just being on top of each other and without, but also still being like very respectful about our capabilities and doing things, and just being understanding. And that, I think that's like what a good team is all about, is like being transparent, being helpful, and looking out for each other in the end.
And being flexible within a structure. Like especially second part of the season, it's like, Frameform Fridays. Because life has happened, and sometimes we're doing episodes that, we're releasing them soon after the event has happened. So there's only so much we can do with that, balancing other responsibilities and projects. It's a blessing to have a very full life, but it can kind of not feel like it sometimes when you're in the middle of a shitstorm.
Yep. Definitely. Yeah, I'm so grateful for both of you, and just really grateful for bringing me into this deal, and just again like trusting me with being a part of this, and just everything that you've brought's been so incredible. I mean, Hannah, you're just incredible technical background, and your background as an educator as well, like as a someone who has had to teach college students.
Yeah.
Just being able to to develop it in such a systematically strong way. And Jen, your incredible initiative and your, incredible just layout, design, holistic, you know, ideas for each episode. Like I feel like every detail gets covered or with each episode, and I feel that we really bring out the best in each other, and just even up just being able to talk out a few these topics, and just having that trust that I can also bring something to this too has also been just personally huge.
Yeah.
Oh God, you bring so much. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, completely random, amazing influence, inspiration and references, but also things that are so relevant to the conversation that only someone with the encyclopedic knowledge that you have and the passion you have for this art form or language or medium, whatever you want to call it. Mode. Yes, the mode. I'm even forgetting my own quotes. Jeez. I literally used to start workshops and say, it's not a genre, it's a mode. But, right? So, like, your ability to have that massive brain power and life experience and then also distill it for our episodes, it's, like, amazing. You've got so much more experience beyond your years, and part of it is because you've been so dedicated traveling and attending things and just soaking it all up. Like, you are a sponge, and you've brought such incredible value to this show, episode after episode.
Yeah, we're definitely, like, I would say 3 very complimentary people for a show like this.
And shout out to our guests and listeners, of course. Like, we wouldn't do this if we were speaking into the void. It can feel like we're speaking to 2 people at a time, but then we actually put the episodes out there and realize that's not the case. And the amazing guests that we've had over the years, I don't think...
Yeah.
I can't recall anyone that's been like, nah, I'm good. Normally, people are very responsive, very positive, and are willing to work with us, and so generous with their time and their ideas and sharing about their work. And it's been awesome being able to highlight such a range of topics and do our round tables, and even people like our outside eye episode, even people that are like, I don't like dance film. Great. We want to talk to you about that. Has been really awesome. So, I've really enjoyed doing that piece of things as well.
For sure. So what's next for us? We're going to still have our episodes be archived and turned into video format. And when I mean video format, I mean it's just will be available on YouTube, because eventually our Simplecast account will have to come to a close. Yes, we do pay for it, believe it or not. But luckily YouTube, it can be up there as long as we want it to be. So that information will be available on Patreon.
Yes.
But we have many episodes that we have to archive and make that happen. So give us a little bit of grace in the timing of that. But we'll have re-releases.
Think of these as re-releases. Think of these, we have our 28 Days Later re-release next year, and that's the first time it's going to be available on streaming in like 4 years.
Yeah, I think we've got the first 2 seasons, maybe 3, out on video, but we've got to move it to our YouTube channel. That doesn't exist yet, but we got to move it to our channel, and then we've got to do seasons 4 and 5. So yeah, it'll be a fun way of revisiting the show, and it's not a goodbye, it's a see you later.
Yeah, and as we said, like, periodically maybe we will work with other festivals to interview these feature filmmakers in their short films or their long form films, and that will definitely keep our gears going in the Frameform way, just a little bit, not as usual release time than what we've been doing over the years.
Yeah, and if you're listening and you are hearing us and you're excited because you're like, that sounds like an opportunity, reach out. let's talk. Let's see how we can make something work, because we would love for this to continue in some capacity. It's just at this point, we got to take a pause. We're focusing on other life priorities in that balance, and we'd rather, we want to Seinfeld this, okay? We want to call it while things are still really good. Yeah.
For sure. But if you want to follow us, we will have our socials information out there. I work for a company that releases content on the internet. Content.
Yep. You can see
Very humble Hannah.
Yep.
Like, maybe they've heard of it.
You can see Hannah's work on very, well-watched, well-trafficked YouTube channels and beyond.
If you want to like and subscribe, we're trying to, reach eventually 10 million subscribers. That'll be great. We're at 7.5 right now.
Damn.
But yeah, you can find that in the show notes. I'll post my website, so you can just go there and gear more traffic to my website. What about Jen, Claire? What about you guys?
Well, I'm still working for San Francisco Dance Film Festival, which will probably be the in-person event's probably going to be over by the time you hear this, but we have a streaming festival that goes through November, and so I will still be there, and I am one of the voices of their social media accounts, so you can contact us on socials if you want to chat. But I'm doing that, and I am also involved in a few other projects around the Bay Area right now, mostly involving analog film, which is very exciting. And so if you go to like a Cinematech event or a Shapeshifters event, maybe you'll see me there too. And I also have a paper that's being published very soon, and hopefully, fingers crossed, there can be a touring screening component to that too. So exciting stuff. A lot of it's up in the air, but very excited about it.
Well, you are a drone cinematographer, so.
That is true. That is true. Not licensed yet, but that's true.
For me, still doing dance cinema. We just had our 10-year anniversary, and as I mentioned, did a huge anthology as part of that. So that was a nice little milestone. We won't do an anthology every single year, but yeah, dance cinema is still going. Very flexible as to our formats. We've got our online releases. This year we've been doing feature films every 2 months. We have a new film that we share on our platform. Some of them are only up for the month. Other ones are pretty evergreen. And still doing live events. Actually, by the time this recording is coming out, I would have just hosted our Capitol event in DC, which is a different format this year because we're partnering with Uprooted, who we've had on this podcast before. And also Robin G's one of our teachers. She was in our Screen Dance Symposium episode. So fun to get back into the, not that I wasn't doing education, but it's fun to offer that this year. And yeah, just continuing those sorts of projects, and still teaching dance, still Miss Jen.
We got a lot on our plate, and it just keeps getting filled up. And as much as we love doing Frameform, it's just one thing that is it's hard for frequency.
Frequency and quality.
Frequency and quality is really hard for us right now, and we just want to take a pause, see where things are, and if we can continue doing this through a different way and a different schedule, that would work for us. So yes, festivals, please reach out to us. We will more than happy to help out in some kind of capacity with that. But with that, we'll see you later. Follow us and check out the show notes, because that's where you're going to find all the information after this ellipses.
Hasta la vista, baby.
All right, cool. Let's cut. This is Frameform, hosted by Hannah Weber, Jen Ray, and Claire Schweitzer. Episode edited by the Frameform team, with social media support from Maddie Leitner and music by Mason Carlton. Thanks for listening.